Welcome to the lecture for Chapter 9 that focuses on public opinion and persuasion. At its basic level, PR is meant to persuade people to think or act a certain way. That is why today we are going to spend a few minutes going over important concepts such as what public opinion is, various theories on how the media shapes public opinion, and practical persuasive techniques that can help you become a more persuasive speaker and PR practitioner. Let's begin. There are several definitions of public opinion, but we will use the following one to guide our understanding. Public opinion is defined as the sum of individual opinions on an issue affecting those individuals. The formation of public opinion includes public interest and events. Public interest asks the question, what are people interested in or what matters to them? The Occupy Wall Street protests provide a good example. All of these individuals have a self-interest in economic equality. Their self-interest can become public interest when others start to have the same opinion. Public opinion also involves events. Public opinion cannot be formed unless there is some material action that can crystallize an idea. You cannot touch an idea or opinion, but you can see and touch a protest. Events are important because they take immaterial concepts and turn them into real things that people can see and participate in. Public opinion has its roots in public interest or in events, but the primary catalyst is public discussion. Public discussion can crystallize an event to the extent that pollsters can measure it. Public opinion can materialize through opinion leaders. The textbook details two types of leaders: formal opinion leaders and informal opinion leaders. Formal opinion leaders are also known as power leaders. Formal opinion leaders have clout due to their positions as elected officials, presidents of companies, or heads of membership groups. Informal opinion leaders have clout with peers because of some special characteristic, usually by being highly informed, articulate, and credible on particular issues. Both of these leaders play an important role in the life cycle of public opinion. PR practitioners use mass media to form public opinion, since PR practitioners provide information to various news sources. There are several theories on how public relations people inform the public and shape public opinion through the mass media. The first theory is the agenda setting theory. This theory argues that media content sets the agenda for public discussion. For example, if you watch the evening news and read the local newspaper, the stories and headlines that are chosen by the editors and producers determines what you will talk about. If a certain story happens but it is not put in the news, the story will not be talked about. The second theory is the media dependency theory. This theory argues that mass media can have a moderate or even powerful effect on forming opinions and attitudes. In other words, this theory argues that if you sit in front of the television, you will form your opinions and attitudes based off of the messages that come out of the television. The third theory is framing theory. Traditionally, framing theory was related to how journalists select certain facts, themes, treatments, and even words to frame a story. Additional research suggests that the framing theory can be broken down even more into media framing and audience framing. This suggests that framing is a continuous process and that the behavioral, attitudinal, cognitive, and affective states of the media and audiences are involved in how they interpret issues. The final theory is conflict theory. Public discourse is rooted in conflict, and public opinion often reflects different or even conflicting views, attitudes, and behaviors. It's important to understand that conflict is not necessarily a bad thing. Conflict can open us up to different ideas on different theories and can actually be very good for public discourse. Persuasion is the underlying current of what public relations practitioners do. Remember Edward Bernays from Chapter 2? He stated that public relations was the engineering of consent to create a favorable and positive climate of opinion toward the individual, product, institution, or idea which is represented. Persuasion is used to do a few things in PR. Those include changing or neutralizing hostile opinions, crystallizing latent opinions and positive attitudes, and conserving favorable opinions. The textbook recommends several techniques to craft more persuasive messages. One technique is the yes-yes approach. This is when you start with points that get a yes response to develop a pattern of yes. This can logically lead to a yes for the conclusion. Another technique is to offer structured choice. This technique gives choices that force the audience to choose between A or B, one or the other type of choice. This can be good when you're dealing with complex issues in order to simplify them for your audience. The third technique is to seek partial commitment. This is when you get a commitment for action on one part that can leave the door open for commitment on other parts of a plan. And a fourth technique is to ask for more but settle for less. Sometimes you might submit a complete PR program to management, but you have to be prepared to compromise by eliminating certain parts. Over the years, research on persuasion has developed some interesting conclusions. Let's go over those that are listed on this slide. Positive appeals are more effective than negative appeals for retention of a message and compliance. Radio and television messages tend to be more persuasive than print, but if the message is complex, print will work better. Strong emotional appeals and fear arousal are more effective when the audience has minimal concern about a topic. High fear appeals are effective only when a readily available action can be taken to eliminate the threat. Logical appeals, using facts and figures, are better for highly educated audiences than strong emotional appeals. Altruistic needs, or doing things for other people, can be a strong motivator. And finally, an exciting spokesperson, like a celebrity, attracts attention to a message that would otherwise be ignored. There are ways to make your messages more or less persuasive. Let's go over several ways that research has found to make your messages more persuasive. It's important for PR practitioners to know this so they can craft messages that make people act. The first is audience analysis. Knowing the basic demographics of your audience, like age, gender, income level, and education, allows you to craft messages suitably tailored to your specific audience. Another is source credibility. We tend to believe messages if they come from people that have credibility. Source credibility is based on expertise, sincerity, and charisma. Another way to be persuasive is through appeals to self-interest. People are interested in messages that pay attention to messages that appeal to their psychological or economic needs. People are motivated by power, respect, well-being, affection, wealth, skill, enlightenment, and physical and mental vitality. It is effective for PR practitioners to craft messages to appeal to what motivates people. Another way to be persuasive is through clarity of message. A message has to be understood. Messages should be direct, simple, and have only one idea. You should also consider the timing and context. Messages are more persuasive if they are received while people are in an environment that supports the message. For example, someone might be open to messages on energy conservation if they just received a high energy bill. Another thing to think about is audience participation. Attitude changes or reinforcement of beliefs is more enhanced with audience involvement and participation. Another idea is suggestions for action. People will endorse ideas if detailed information is given on how to act on the message. Content and structure of messages is also important, including things like drama, statistics, surveys and polls, examples, testimonials, and endorsements make messages more persuasive, so make an effort to include these. And finally, you should consider emotional appeals. Everyone has an ability to emotionally connect to something. Balancing emotion with statistics and logic make for even more persuasive messages because they appeal to both sides of the brain. At the end of the day, people are still complex individuals. There are no surefire ways to persuade people. There are a few variables that can intervene the flow of persuasive messages that we need to be aware of. The first is lack of message penetration. Because of all of the modes information can pass through in our society, messages can become distorted as they pass through gatekeepers and as they are tweeted, blogged, or put out on social networks. Another thing to be aware of is competing messages. Messages are not received in a vacuum, and they have to compete with noise in the communication process. Another limit to persuasion is self-selection. People usually listen to the messages that they agree with. That means that we select messages to listen to and messages we don't want to hear. And a fourth limit to persuasion is self-perception. We all have filters that intercept the messages we hear. People might perceive the same message in different ways. Awareness of ethics is a must when you're persuading people to do things. I encourage you to look at page 239 in the textbook to review several ethical concepts you need to consider when persuading. Thank you for listening to the lecture on Chapter 9. Today we covered what public opinion is and how persuasion works. I hope this better clarifies some of the most important concepts of the chapter. Thank you.